What's good, everybody? Thank you again to all my viewers, subscribers on YouTube, on Spotify, all of my followers on social media. Thank you all so much for rocking with me on this show. Just want to get on here and give a million thanks to all of my supporters, all my viewers and newcomers who have subscribed recently and viewed the shows and the episodes that follows. I'm looking forward to doing more of these episodes as I provide or help provide more information and content to the Black community from those who are from the Black community, who are in these particular professions, industries, and organizations, providing this type of information and insight on what it means to be a professional in these organizations and industries, as well as just provide insight on what we can be doing better to help become a better version of ourselves, right? Just want to give you all a quick backstory of myself for those of you who have recently joined the show and subscribed and liked and shared. A million thanks to you as well. I really appreciate all your love and support for the show as I continue to put out more information and more episodes. Your thoughts, your support, your comments, your concerns and criticisms, all of the whole nine. It's all welcome and appreciated in more ways than one and more ways than you will ever know. Just want to come on here and give you all just a quick backstory of who I am in short, and why I started this platform and podcast to begin with. For starters, ladies and gentlemen, I am Marlon Joseph, the host of Speak to the Mic podcast show that you can find on YouTube, on Spotify, Google Podcast, any podcast platform that this show is provided on, you can find it on. Be sure to tune in and like, share, subscribe it, because you don't want to miss out on information that's being brought to you by these Black men and women who look just like us, come from same or similar backgrounds as we do, who can help bring inspiration as well as information to the forefront and how we can do better in all these different facets of life to help us as a culture, as a community, to advance and become even more successful than we already are, breaking these generational curses, breaking and establishing generational wealth and generational health, for that matter, in all areas and aspects of life. Quick backstory of myself. I am originally from Chicago, Illinois, South Side, Englewood neighborhood to be exact. Shout out to all my Chicagoans that's out there who follow the show. Love you all as well. My profession, I graduated from CVS High School in Chicago in 2003. Shout out to my 03 class. Graduated from Russ College. Shout out to my HBCU alums worldwide. Love and shout y'all out almost every single day on the show as well. Got my bachelor's degree in computer science. Have a master's degree from Strayer University in education technology. I've always been fascinated with technology in general. Even when I was a little kid, I wanted to be a scientist, and Lord willing, and I was grateful enough to God that He allowed me to follow in those footsteps of what my dreams and aspirations was to be professionally. So by profession, I am a database analyst, work for a technology company that's worldwide. The point of me bringing this up is because you're going to hear a lot of emphasis that I put forward when it comes to the exposure of technology to our kids at an early age, because I understand how much of a growing, grossing, and high demanding profession that it is to be in different aspects of IT. It's growing and constantly in demand and constantly paying tremendously well in these professions. So the medical field and the IT field are the number one and number two fields in the entire work industry that's paying the most, that's high demanding, and looking for more and more people each and every day. I get calls and emails, inquiries every single day about different job opportunities on a daily basis. And so I've been in the profession for almost 10 years, as well as, coming from Chicago. I recently, I moved here in April of 2013 here in Atlanta. So I've been down here. Next April will be 10 years I've been living in the Atlanta area. I'm grateful to God for the opportunity He has granted me and blessed me with being down here. And in doing so in my profession and in my personal life, I married a beautiful Black queen of my own who is a licensed professional counselor in the mental health field. We have two beautiful children. I have a beautiful growing daughter and a handsome, growing, and funny son. We have been doing tremendously well for the most part in terms of in our individual lives as professions, as well as coming together collectively as a union to help, bring forth, just pouring more life into our children and helping pour life into our Black community as well, because we see the need for it in our respective professions. Now, as it pertains to why I even started this particular platform. So back in 2020, during the pandemic, during the shutdown, I had a lot of spare time on my hands at the moment in time. So I got to, take some time to research and follow and listen to a lot of different podcasts that were out there, realizing that podcasting has been around for 10, almost 15 years. And not even really once initially having a thought to even start this podcast platform, years before the pandemic, right? And so, but I had been, recently, right before I began this journey and becoming a podcast host, I contemplated with the notion and the whole idea of even starting a podcast, what my podcast would be predicated on and what it would be solely, tentatively, touching bases on in terms of the different subject matters. So I got to following different podcast hosts and different podcasts, seeing how they move and how they operate, how they got started, where they started from, what they were specifically talking about on their shows. But then it dawned on me in doing my research and following these different platforms that no one was really touching solely on things that is related to the Black community as it pertains to the information that we need to have be given to us by people who look like us. Now, there are certain platforms that's out there that are specifically aiming at one particular field, but the sole purpose of this platform and this podcast is to touch bases on all facets of life when it comes to being a Black man or a Black woman in this world, and information that can be given to the Black community from people who are from the Black community in real time. I wanted the information being given to us and being dispersed to my Black people. I wanted to be from Black people who are in these professions, who can speak to how they got started, how they gained so much knowledge and information and experience in it, how they help inspire the uninspired when it comes to those who have been through similar backgrounds. So in large, and unfortunately for us as Black people, we generally come from the same, if not similar backgrounds when it comes to our upbringing, coming from impoverished neighborhoods, not coming from money and many resources and things of that nature. So I wanted this platform to be solely based on information that's going to be applicable or can be applicable to our everyday lives as Black people, coming from Black people who are in the trenches in real time, who are trying to help move our culture forward in the most positive way possible. Given that I have a loud voice and I'm very strong in my convictions, argumentative to a fault in certain aspects, but in a healthy way, right? I love to debate and have dialogue with people. I love picking people's brains. And so that's what really sparked my interest and want to use my voice in such a way to where I'm bringing awareness to different subject matters. I'm helping bring forth actionable items that we can execute together collectively, as well as actionable items that I myself as an individual can bring to the table to help us, help us move positively forward and help change a narrative that society has painted us as Black people by giving them the more positive side of us and just being overall our best selves and the best versions of ourselves, the best way I know how. And so, in this journey, as I embarked on becoming a podcast host of my own podcast, I wanted to make sure that I speak to Black men and women who can speak to the very things that we'll be talking about and have talked about on this show. I'm speaking to mental health professionals. I'm speaking to teachers. I'm speaking to ministers and preachers and clergymen. I'm speaking to lawyers, doctors, politicians. I'm speaking to financial advisors. I'm speaking to real estate investors and realtors. I'm speaking to the people who are in the financial field in general. I'm speaking to anyone who is Black, who are in these professions, who have years of experience, who can speak to the real life, real time factual information that we all need in our lives as Black people to help us, bridge that gap of wealth between us and the white community and other communities for that matter to begin with. I also want to take the time to acknowledge the very things that we're not doing so much of, as well as even speak about the things that we're doing too much of that we need to be doing less of too. So speaking about all the great things and the tremendous things that we're doing holistically as a Black community, but also touching on the reality things that are not so positive, that we have to address, right? We have to address the generational curses that we're all faced with and dealing with on an everyday basis, the internal as well as the external curses that we're having to break free from, that stem from the environments from which we've come. And I wanted to speak to those professionals in these industries and professions who can speak to and give facts to exactly what it is that they're seeing on their end, what it is that they can give us in terms of a hint of inspiration and information that can help be applicable to our everyday lives, as well as being inspiration to someone else, because we know for a fact that changing the narrative in our Black community as Black individuals is paramount of importance to our future generations and generations and our own generations as well. We want to be able to leave our kids and their kids and their grandkids as well, and generations of kids that we won't be around to see. We want to be able to leave them with much of a foundation that we ourselves would not face with, or not even given in the beginning stages of our lives, unfortunately. And so, not repeating the cycles that have been brought to us, we want to be able to provide a better and more healthier environment and foundation for our kids and grandkids to grow from, and be able to take what we've given them and go even beyond of where we could have possibly went with it. And so, in doing so, this podcast show is provide to you all everyday Black men and women who are going to be on this show and who have been on this show so far, speaking about a multitude of issues and topics that we have to address, have to talk about, and bring forth to the light when it comes to inspiration and motivation to help us be a better version of ourselves in the most uncensored, unfiltered, and unapologetically Black way I know how. And that's being able to be our authentic Black selves in a world that doesn't necessarily respect, appreciate, or acknowledge us fully in real time. And so, back in 2020, like I said, when I started this podcast show, I was contemplating on what my aim and what my focus was going to be and what my audience was going to be. But then I thought to myself, as a pro-Black man, I want to make sure I make this clear to every single person who listens to this show, who tunes into the show. I am not a politician. I am not a broadcaster. I am not a commentator. I am not a journalist. What I am, though, is merely a concerned, proud Black man, conscientious Black man who is concerned about the direction of my Black community and my Black people, and what I can do as an individual to help holistically get us to the place of progress, true, real progress that our ancestors can truly be proud of, and say that because of them, we're seeing our dreams come into fruition with this generation that's coming up, the generation that's currently in leadership roles and positions, and being able to say, because of our ancestors who've gone through so much to get us here, we want to be able to give them thanks and acknowledgement for what they sacrificed for us to be here by moving forward and going measures beyond of what they could have possibly inspired or even imagined them being themselves in that moment in time in life. And so I want to be able to be an inspiration to my kids, my future grandkids, just holistically the Black community in general. I want to be the change that I want to see in our Black community. And so I'm speaking to men and women, or Black men and women preferably, in these professions who are doing just the same, who want to see just those same changes that they themselves are becoming or have become in their own professions. Again, I love and very much so thankful for each and every one of you all who have been tuning in and rocking with me on this show. I make sure that I'm very conscientious and intentional when it comes to being a better podcast host, asking even more questions. And the fact that some of you all, in some of my episodes have provided information and provided questions that you would like for me to ask my podcast hosts during those episodes. As I put out more content, more information, as I make more posts about what I'll be talking about next, I'm looking forward to hearing from you all, hearing your concerns, hearing your thoughts, hearing your inquiries, and even your criticisms for that matter. Help me become a better podcast host, because this podcast show is truly for the everyday Black men and women. There's no slight or disrespect to our black celebrities that's out there, but for those who are black men and women who are in real time in the trenches, making things happen for us and being that inspirational story that we can all look towards and say, okay, because that person made it, I know I have it in me to make it too. I want to be able to provide this platform to those everyday black men and women who aren't getting the acknowledgement and credit that they rightfully deserve. That's really inspiring more of our youth and even some of our adults who are being inspired too, because some of them don't have inspiration to look forward to. And then some of us who lack the internal inspiration to push ourselves, we can be pushed by those black men and women who look just like us, who are in these professions and fields where some of us may ultimately want to be, or some of us may already currently be in, but just not, we're not really progressing as much as we'd like to. And so some of us who are stagnant in those professions, we want to advance. And so we want to hear information from those black men and women who look just like us, who can say, I went through these same situations that you went through, and I was once there. This is how I began to get out of that rut. This is how I began to get out of those situations where I felt like I was stuck, but I knew I had to keep pushing forward, keep grinding it out, keep working hard to really truly see the fruits of my labor really coming to manifest in such a harvest in such a garden to where I'm able to be a blessing to other people who are inspiring to be in the same footsteps that I've taken, or even possibly go further than where I've even gone with this. And so, in doing so, I'm always interested in hearing from you guys. I'm always interested in hearing more of you all who would love to be on the show, who specialize in certain areas that I haven't touched on, as well as areas that I've touched on before. But the whole purpose of this show is to keep touching on these different subject matters until we as a people, we as a community, as a culture, holistically are in a better place. Not just one person, not just a group of people, but all of us holistically being in that monolithic mindset that, hey, because I made it, I know each and every one of us can make it, because again, another purpose for this show is to make sure that we're dumping out those barrels of crabs to where we're each making it on our own 2 feet, but being inspired by those who made it, and it being encouraged by those who are providing opportunities for us to make it on our own 2 feet, but making sure that we're not forgetting where we come from, and making sure that we never forget that there was someone who once gave a damn about us. So it's our obligation, and it should be in our thought process to give a damn about somebody else that's coming behind us, to help them make it so that they can make it on their own and be successful in their own right. Again, you all, I appreciate you all so much for rocking with me, listening in on this show, tuning in, giving your thoughts and comments, and sharing and liking, subscribing. Keep subscribing, man. Keep sharing. The more people we get listening to this show, the more we can get more ears to be attentive to this show and be able to disperse this information out to other people. Hey, man, you might want to check out this episode of this podcast, man, because he's talking about some real things on there that we can find applicable to our everyday lives, and that we can be an inspirational story to somebody else, because that's the ultimate goal of this show for me personally. I want to be the change that I want to see in our community, and I want to help inspire someone else to go even further than where I've gone in my professional life, as well as even in the podcasting world too. And so this show is truly for the culture. I appreciate everybody who's been rocking, who's been sharing, liking, commenting. Keep subscribing, man. Keep spreading the word of this show, because the more it grows, the more pressure is going to put on me in a good way to become an even better podcast host, to ask even better questions, to reach out to even more people to be on the show, because this show is about dispersing information and imparting knowledge and education to the Black community that can truly help us. And it's coming from people who look just like us on an everyday basis, ladies and gentlemen. This show is truly for the people and for the culture, because we have it in us to be great. We just need that spark, or that inspiration, or that opportunity to bring that greatness out of us. And this is going to be the podcast that's going to help do that. So again, I thank you all for your time. I thank you all for rocking with me, subscribing to the show, listening in, spreading the word. Continue to keep doing that, man, because The more word gets out about this show, the more content is going to help. It's going to force me to have to keep pumping out, and it's going to be authentic and truthful information that's being dispersed to you all, because I know this is exactly what's going to take for us to holistically come together as a monolithic group in the Black community to help us advance and move forward in the most positive way possible, and help break down all the barriers that society has deemed as discouraging walls for us to have to break down. Thank y'all so much, man. I love y'all. Keep supporting the show. Keep sharing the show. Keep rocking with me. I'm going to keep putting out more information and content out here for each episode. I look forward to hearing from you all more and more as the time goes on. Thank y'all so much.